Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Starting Small. Today, I'm joined by Rosa Li of Wildwonder. Rosa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Cameron. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, so I'd like to start out with your upbringing. Where did you grow up, and what would you say your childhood was like?
Yeah, so I actually spent the first 12 years of my life in Beijing, China. My grandparents actually raised me. So I would say those formative years of my life were quite influential in where I am today. So I
Wow,
grew up with being surrounded by these herbal drinks. So grandma would brew these, I guess I would call it healing tonics with just a symphony of wild herbs and botanicals that were really good for my health. I would say I didn't quite appreciate them at the time. I don't know if you know too much about traditional Chinese medicine or like herbal tonics. They're not
minimal.
yes. Yeah, so
Mhm.
they're really good for you. My grandma always has this basically kitchen full of herbs that were really good for me. And she would always greet me with a cup of tea every time I came home from school or just playing outside. So they really soothed my stomach and, lifted my spirit. I would say, I had a lot of stressful jobs. After college, I worked on Wall Street and
Mm,
definitely ran into some health issues. I had digestive health issues. Basically, if gut health really affects all aspects of our wellness, from immunity to brain health, energy level, inflammatory response.
yep.
So I started looking into gut health and really appreciated its impact, and actually went back to these homemade tonics that
Mm,
were basically influenced by my grandmother, and became a true believer in
love it.
gut health. So that's really led to the creation of Wildwonder, and I will call this the culmination of grandma wisdom with the concept of a California produce stand. So it's
Yeah.
really making these, it's rooted in Eastern herbal wisdom, but with whimsical flavors.
I love it. Yeah, starting back literally from your upbringing. So at what point did you come to the United States, and kind of what led that direction? What was that transition like for you growing up at that age?
Yeah, so I came here when I was 12.
Yeah.
Finished elementary school, and I definitely knew nothing about the US. Honestly, I came here with no expectations. My parents immigrated here actually earlier to really build better opportunities for the family. And once they graduated from graduate school, had a stable job, I was able to come here and join them.
Mm,
I didn't know what to expect. I would say, saying that there was a cultural shock was probably an understatement.
yeah. For sure. And what was that transition like for you growing up? Like, how did your interest in kind of like the activities that you did in Beijing, how did that switch once you came to the US growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like socially it was very different because growing up in China, obviously I was only surrounded by Chinese culture and all my
Mm,
friends were Chinese. I had Chinese food growing up. Watched Chinese movies. I mean, honestly, I had no concept of American culture. And I went from Beijing to
mm.
Indiana, which is probably the most Caucasian or like least diverse place in the
Oh, you went to
US.
where at in Indiana?
Yeah, so my family now lives around Indianapolis, but I actually, when I first moved, we were up in by South Bend. So,
I'm in South Bend. No way.
oh my gosh, my mom used to work in Notre Dame. So,
That's
uh,
crazy.
yeah, and I almost went there for college, but ended up not going, which is actually great.
Wow. That's really interesting. Just like a segue. So the Starting Small Summit we host once a year and fly in some founders, and we
Yeah.
partner with Notre Dame to do that, and it's actually
No
hosted in
way.
South Bend. That's so
Wow.
crazy. I don't think I've met anyone on the show yet who's come
Well,
close to South Bend.
I mean, the population there is like pretty small, but
Yeah,
yeah, I don't usually meet people from Indiana to begin with, let alone Notre Dame.
that's so funny. So, with such a kind of interest in health, kind of especially growing up around that scene, it's kind of interesting how you went into investment banking, and I saw you went to Northwestern and then Stanford for MBA.
Yeah.
What led you to go that route for college?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't think I would start something on my own. When I was in college, I was very interested in economics. Anything that's more quant, actually, not so much on the creative side.
Mm,
So I majored in economics and math. I was very interested in the financial markets, and just how capital flowed. And I was actually very excited, and I'm still very grateful to have gone that route because I learned a lot about just finance and business in general. Worked during the financial crisis at Morgan Stanley, but also afterwards went to the buy side. So worked in private equity and venture
Mm.
investing, and that really gave me the perspective on scaling businesses. So I actually had managed portfolio companies anywhere from the pre-revenue stage all the way to
Mm.
the Fortune 500 stage companies. So got a really good viewpoint on what's important for growing a business, and
Yeah.
then different functions within the businesses. And I was super interested on the earlier stage side because, you know, the fund I worked at, Warburg Pincus, focused mostly on private equity stage, so leveraged buyouts. But at the same
Mm.
time, in their San Francisco office, which I also worked for a bit in, we focused mostly on early stage. So I was super interested in working alongside entrepreneurs who were actually building products and businesses from the ground up. And that's
Yeah.
really what inspired me to actually, go to Stanford and get a taste for that entrepreneurial spirit. I actually, during my business school time there, I worked a lot on the side with startups just
Mm.
to learn the ropes. I actually essentially volunteered myself as like free labor
Yeah.
to learn, the operating side. And after business school, I helped some friends launch a business in Asia and started thinking about what I really want to do. And even then, I, wasn't thinking about starting a beverage business. I actually just really enjoyed I guess, the rapid growth of a startup and
Yeah.
the creative environment. It's very chaotic, but really exciting at the same time. And I wanted to do something that's tied to my heritage, which is
Yeah.
more meaningful to me. So being in Asia, I actually went around and sought out herbs, and teas that were really basically had health benefits, had really great stories. And that's really the start of
Mm.
Wildwonder. And basically wanted to do something I'm personally passionate about, tying heritage to
Yeah.
an industry I'm very excited about, which is food.
I love it. So once you went back overseas and kind of discovered some of these herbs, what did that R&D process look like? Did some of your ancestors, did you guys get together and talk about different ways that these herbs can benefit? Or on the food science background, without a background yourself, where did you look for that
Yeah.
guidance?
Well, I mean, I learned a lot from my grandmother growing
Yeah.
up. So she's always got these, tinctures that she made. And then she's not like a food scientist by any means.
Yeah.
I would just say I learned by just reading up about them. And I'm a huge foodie, and I don't believe in giving up taste for health. So if you think about the whole category of functional beverage or anything that's healthy, most people just automatically assume they're not tasty and you have to give up taste for health. But that's really not true. So I think there is a happy middle ground where you can do something that's better for you, but also have it be a really delightful experience.
Mm.
So that's really my goal, is to make a lot of these gut healthy and heritage inspired ingredients more accessible for the masses by making them delicious and
Yeah.
delightful. So I basically started playing around in my kitchen, making different concoctions with herbs, teas, juices. And honestly, the formulations are all made internally, like by my team. So I started with just my kitchen, and
Wow.
now my team do it together. So it's we don't outsource it to anyone because it's so rooted in, like, my childhood is so rooted in my heritage being herbalism, and we don't want it to taste like a commercial product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So doing this in house, especially early by yourself, what did the packaging look like then? I mean, you're not using a co-packer at this time. You guys have beautiful branding today. I'm
Thank
not sure if it switched over time, but how did that work?
Yeah, no, great question. The product has iterated over time many
Mhm.
times, and it's always a process. When I first started, actually, it's a really interesting story. I honestly just like made the liquid in my kitchen, and I remember when I first started pitching this product to people, I actually pitched to a chef at one of the large tech companies. And I had no product at the time. And I believe this is Uber Square, and this is right before COVID. So
Mhm.
they had invited all the brands to come and basically do a sampling event with their employees.
Mm.
At the time, these large tech companies had beautiful offices with just an abundance of delicious snacks and drinks that they served for free.
Yeah.
And so I was invited there to basically sample the product. And if people voted for me, then they would stock my product. And
Wow.
this is before I had a product. I literally brought the liquid to the chef and he tasted it. He loved it. And he was like, I want you here so people can vote for you. So then when he invited me, there was like tables with Cliff Bar and all these like large companies you wouldn't know about. And I
Yeah.
basically uh, bought these swing top bottles from Amazon and made the drinks and basically brought a cooler with these liquid with no bottles and no cans. And I hand labeled one bottle so that it looks legit and people know what they're talking about. But really, I had no product at the time.
Wow.
And so it was really just the liquid that people were tasting and they really liked it. And then that's how I had my first purchase order. I think either Uber or Square was like my first customer. Both of them actually ordered, but I did essentially the same process and ended up having to find a co-packer to make the product for me.
Mm.
So that's basically what started the
Yeah.
whole like manufacturing process. I essentially cornered the owner of this co-packer because at that time I had really no volume, no brand. No one wanted to work with me. And the co-packer, the first co-packer we worked with, and I think he was just impressed by my persistence. And I would refuse to leave the
Mm.
place until I got the answer I wanted. So he decided to make the product for me. I had inventory, and we're actually going to launch in March 2020. I
Oh.
don't know if you know about Expo West, which is this
Oh yeah.
very trade show that everyone goes to, and I thought it was the perfect platform for us to launch the brand.
Yeah.
And of course, we all know what happened.
Oh my
COVID,
gosh.
everything was canceled, so I had to restart my whole, I guess, distribution strategy as well as launch strategy. But that was really how we made the product.
So were you able to fulfill that order, that purchase order then at this time, or did COVID shut that down? What did that look like?
Oh yeah, I mean, we were ready to go. We had inventory
Yeah.
to ship, but everything was canceled. So
Oh man.
the entire food service space was shut down. All the offices shut down. So a lot
Mm.
of these offices actually canceled their orders, and
Wow.
so we had to find other ways to sell the products. For instance, at the time, I basically felt like I launched a brand, but like it was completely wiped out. Like our entire revenue stream was completely wiped out,
Mm.
and then I basically went door to door to all the grocery stores around the San Francisco Bay Area to sell the products into stores because stores were really the only things that were open at the time. And
Yeah.
then I built our Shopify site within 3-4 months to start selling things online.
Mm.
I would say at the time it was extremely stressful. I did not think necessarily we're going to survive. I was just
Mm.
trying really hard to bring revenue in because we had costs and we had the inventory to sell, but we need to make cash flow work. Um, but it was really a blessing in disguise because it really pushed us to think harder about the long-term strategy and about our channel strategy. So I learned to really diversify our channels. I was purely going after food service,
Mm.
and I diversified it to a multi-channel strategy where it's online, it's food service, and it's retail. And now retail is growing really fast for us, but we also optimize for online growth. So, I
Mm.
mean, if you were to ask me, do you think I was going to sell drinks like liquid online and ship liquid across the country as our main channel, I definitely would have said no.
Yeah.
But that's what happened in 2020, 2021.
Mm.
Everyone was buying things online, and now there's a shift in consumer behavior, and people are more welcoming to like D2C brands or like people
Mm.
selling drinks online.
Yeah. So what percentages would you say in that like late 2020, once the product is actually out there, Shopify is live? was D2C to retail? And did some of those retailers, did they open when you were knocking on those doors, going to door at the beginning?
Yeah, they were open. They were the only
Mm,
places that were open, and I would say everyone was a little bit afraid because we were all very worried about our health, not getting COVID. So um, grocery store people were definitely like high risk, right? So
yeah.
I actually, instead of quarantining, which is what most people did, I basically was driving around to every grocery store and I basically helped people stock shelves and as a way to build relationships, sell the products. And so by the
Wow.
end of year one, we were stocked in over 100 stores, and including our local Whole Foods. So that was
Mm,
huge, and that's purely from knocking on doors.
yeah. Love it. S- Getting into kind of the offerings at this point, what were the flavor offerings that you had at launch, and how did that evolve? How quickly did that evolve and shape over time?
Yeah, so we launched with 3 flavors, and 3 flavors are usually the ideal number because most people can't take more than 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And so we launched with actually guava rose, which is what I'm drinking right now.
Mhm.
Um, Mango gold and peach ginger,
Mm,
and then we usually launch one new flavor a year, and that's pretty ideal based on how we expand with retail.
yeah.
And I would say when we first launched, the other product iteration we went through that's actually quite major was we launched in glass bottles first, and then we transitioned to cans a year
Mm,
later, and that was a very crucial transition for us because our velocity significantly improved
mm,
because of that switch. I would say that's partially because a lot of people are looking for something more accessible. We were also finding that uh, consumer behavior shifted, right? So people are buying things online.
yep.
Glass bottles are so breakable and then it's not easy to ship, very heavy. So cans are just more accessible. You can bring them
Mm,
anywhere. And then there's also kind of just a general shift to cans with a lot of retail products. So when we switched to cans, we saw a huge improvement
mm,
in terms of repeat purchase, accessibility. We were a lot more doors were open to us because we switched to cans.
yeah.
So that was a really awesome iteration. If you think about like just the history of iterations we had, the other iterations we had were all, taste based. So we would constantly talk to our customers and get feedback. And if people were saying, hey, I like this flavor, or I think this part of the taste is too strong, like because of our herbal base, that might not be approachable for everyone. So for instance, mango gold used to be called mango turmeric, and
Mm,
we still have fresh brewed turmeric roots as the first key ingredient in the drink, but we definitely dialed it back from a volume perspective because some people found that to be like an acquired taste and they didn't really find it to be super, like delicious.
yeah.
So once we tweaked the formulation, we renamed it. That SKU also significantly improved in terms of velocity and repeat.
Mm,
So definitely are constantly tweaking products. We're tweaking the packaging as well based on what resonates with the consumer, as well as just like overall like experience with the brand.
yeah. What is your brand stance on kind of like educating your consumers on the functional ingredients that the drinks have? So without sacrificing flavor or function, uh, how do you guys do that with education and also kind of your content and the way you put yourself out there with your branding, as you mentioned?
Yeah, we're definitely a combination. And I always tell people that we're about function and flavor at the same time.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you think about food, it really comes down to taste. Even if there's just so much benefits, it doesn't taste good, people are not going to gravitate towards a product, at least not from a repeat purchase perspective.
Yeah.
So taste is always the first thing we think about. And of course, we're not just like a sparkling water that is purely just for hydration. We offer so many additional benefits that we do want people to know about. And that's why, we are a premium priced product compared to say like a water or, maybe even like a juice. So,
Yeah.
we do talk about gut health via social through our website, but it's not like the first thing we talk about. I would say, even for the wellness generally, like fairly educated people who shop at Whole Foods, they
Yeah,
don't understand the difference between prebiotics and probiotics. They generally know that those are good things for them, or maybe it's good things for gut health, and gut health is generally important. Most
yeah,
people can't tell the nuances of gut health. So, and we don't expect them to. So, the education piece we continue to do, but we don't go super deep. We're not trying to be like a food science company or, like a medical food product.
yeah,
At the end of the day, we're a consumer packaged good, and so it's lighter on the education compared to some of the like super science based products.
for sure.
But we want this to be a generally delightful experience first.
Hmm. Yeah, you mentioned premium product, premium price goes along with that. What do you say your consumer is overall, the archetype and demographic?
Mhm. Yeah, our consumers definitely skew more female, and I think that's partially because our packaging is more feminine.
Mm,
But I would say the divide is actually not super. It's not super heavy in female. I would say it's more like 65-35, like 65% female. And they are more millennials and like people who we don't target the Gen Zs actually. We target more like the slightly older crowd just because if you think about when you're in your like teenage years and 20s, you don't really care that much about sugar level or gut health.
yeah,
I will become more health conscious and start to care about sugar consumption, gut health, and all the health and wellness aspects in their 30s and later on. So that's, we want to make sure like we're not trying to convince people that gut health is important for them. We're trying to get them to, kind of get hooked on our product once they already understand generally what they're looking for.
for sure.
For sure.
I would love to dive into your Shark Tank experience. I know you were on Shark Tank and just, I mean, launching in 2020 and all the verticals and obstacles you've had to jump since then.
Mhm.
How was that opportunity for you, and especially landing that spot? How did that kind of evolve?
Yeah, that was such an amazing experience. And I encourage like anyone who has a CPG product to do it because it's so impactful for the business.
Mm,
And I can't tell you like how many people come up to me and say, "Hey, I saw you on Shark Tank. I heard about your brand on Shark Tank." So just like the pure number of consumers who watched that show, I was super
yeah.
impressed by. And it was 4 million viewership across the country. So
Wow.
um, gosh, I mean, Shark Tank actually reached out to me, and somehow they discovered our brand, and they reached out to me actually a whole year before I was ready to respond. So this is during the height of COVID. I remember getting this email from someone at Shark Tank, and they're interested in talking. And at that time, honestly, I was just so focused on not running out of stock and like figuring out and rebuilding our supply chain because of what happened with COVID. Like there would be times when our co-packer would shut down because someone
Mm,
contracted COVID and like we wouldn't have products. So I actually didn't respond to them like in a bit until a whole year later.
wow.
Said, well, like now we're actually more ready to do marketing. To actually we have the right infrastructure to scale. And I
Yeah.
responded and I said, hey, like I know this, I'm being like unfashionably late, and but we would love to talk about Shark Tank. And so basically that got the ball rolling, and it was a series of interviews and screening with various producers. Finally got to the finish line, and even before we went for taping, and this is what Shark Tank always tells you, like there's no guarantee. Even
Yeah.
if you're like this late in the game and you're taping, doesn't mean you're going to air.
Yep.
And for everyone that goes through the process, they always tell you, there's no guarantee that you're going to tape. So it's very much an investment, and all the risk is on our side because we're putting in the time, we're putting in the financial investment in building the booth, and I had to fly to LA to tape, and especially given that we're such a small team, it's really hard to be so dedicated to something that's going to take up so much of your mental energy and time.
For sure.
But I definitely believe that we needed a platform to tell our story, and that would be the right platform. So that was definitely one of the most crucial and impactful decisions I made. And what's really amazing, and this is honestly, it's luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. they had the very first East Asian shark as our guest shark, and so CEO of DoorDash, Tony Xu,
Yeah.
yeah, it was the first year he's even appeared on Shark Tank, and I don't know if he is doing it again or did it again. But then the producers were telling me this like right before I went on. They were saying, hey, I think we got like a good match for you. And they always try to match like the guest sharks industry with the company's industry to make it more interesting.
Mm.
And basically, I have four regular sharks. They told me who they are. And then for the guest shark, when they revealed it, right before they revealed it, they said, hey, it's going to be someone not in food, but in food tech. And I didn't know who it was going to be. And I actually just thought to myself, hey, wouldn't it be cool if it's like an Uber or DoorDash that can actually distribute my products?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really didn't think it was going to be it. So when they told me it was going to be Tony from DoorDash, I was honestly like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to us.
Incredible.
So super excited to pitch to him because not only could he add value as an investor, his platform will be perfect for us from a strategic perspective too. So that's really the shark I was going after, and then we got a deal from him.
So, I mean, checking out the site as well, I see a Shark Tank bundle. I've never seen anyone who created like a product or like a SKU based off of their airing. So what inspired that as well? And just, I mean, the launch of a Shark Tank, the Delight bundle.
Yeah, we just wanted to like take advantage of the airing and do everything possible to like make people feel special that we created something for the show. And that bundle was sold so well, like most people went for it. And I can't even remember if we had like a larger pack size because we did start with offering a lot more. So like what a lot of other brands told me before we aired was, Shark Tank, the audience tends to spend less, and they might not be your true audience, and a lot of people offer huge discounts, and they might not get people to order repeatedly. It was really good sale. It was like just like a really good opportunity for a sales event.
Yeah.
And I actually found the opposite to be true for us. So we actually we had discounts, but we actually increased the average order value from the Shark Tank cohort as well as every single cohort after that. So like once we aired on Shark Tank, not only did more people come to our platform to order, they actually ordered more products. So our average order value increased over time, and it significantly increased from the Shark Tank cohort. And the repeat purchase was really awesome as well. So it was such a great opportunity for us to get a brand out there because we knew we got validation from that crowd that they actually really enjoy the product. They're coming back to it.
Yeah. Kind of with some of that feedback today, what would you say is the top seller overall?
Yeah. So do you want to take a guess at what our most popular is?
I mean, I'm a huge fruit fan, so these all sound amazing. I'm gonna say Strawberry Passion.
That's right. It's a strawberry
wow.
passion. Yeah. So there was a part during the episode when Mark Cuban actually chugged a whole can of Strawberry Passion, and he really liked that flavor, and he said, "I'll order it." And immediately when he said that, the sales just like shut up. And he's really the ultimate influencer, but that is truly the bestseller.
I love it. Awesome. So looking at the brand today, I know we touched on it earlier with going into retail and launching on Shopify, but what would you say kind of percentage wise is retail, D2C, food service, majority of sales today?
Yeah, it's a combination. So we are very mindful about our distribution strategy is going to continue to be multi-channel. And I really believe in having this diversification because we want to touch the same customer throughout their day, from when they're, say, working in the office to grabbing a drink from a cafe to shopping in the grocery store and to shopping online. So increase, brand awareness, product trial. And we have the same strategy in every market we open. We go for this multi-channel strategy. It's not always just retail. And what we found is that actually helps with retail brand awareness. And we're able to maintain really good velocity as we grow as well.
For sure. So I like to conclude each episode with this. If you can share one piece of advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe something you've learned or regret, what would you say that would be?
Oh gosh, I've learned so much. I would say success is not a straight line. And I know like every, investor, everyone wants to see this chart where you have like a line going from the bottom left corner to the top right corner.
Hmm.
And never looks that way from the inside because there's just so many ups and downs. And I think the hard part is, getting back up and really putting one foot in front of the other, one crisis after another. And this is what we've learned during COVID, and basically every challenge that came after that is being able to pick yourself back up and work towards this mission that you feel really passionate
Hmm.
about. So I would say it's, persistence really pays off. But most importantly is really finding something that we're all very passionate about. That's really what makes a difference, because it's just so easy to give up after
Yeah,
after all the hardships. So if there is a North Star, there is something that's deeper and bigger than yourself. It's easier to, be persistent.
love it. Well, Rosa, thank you so much for joining me today. And to listeners out there, make sure to check out Wild Wonder at drinkwildwonder.com.